So very welcome to all of you, dear friends, and thank you for taking time to be with us this evening. You know that in our daily lives, we make a lot of choices every day. We have everything that we do practically is a choice. And the biggest choices that we make, is how we, in a way, behave or how we act. Now, in our daily life, we can decide and choose to be kind or to be unkind, to be loving or not loving, to be patient or not. And one of the choices that we can make is this idea of gratitude. Am I grateful for what I have or what life offers to me? Or I choose to not be grateful, and that is also a choice. So because of these choices, tonight we have asked Samra, who has done her, Samra, all of you, she has done her thesis on gratitude, on her master thesis, and she's going to help us to understand a little bit more the implication and practical parts or what's of this gratitude, and how we can actually make this choice of being grateful in our lives, and what are the results of that, what are the implications. So I am very happy to hear what she has to say and learn from her research. They did the research for her thesis, I think, about the gratitude they had. So, and I guess I know that she is also going to do some exercises, involve us in some practical parts and exercises also. So we're all looking forward to that. Thank you, Samra. Please.
Thank you for the fantastic introduction. So I'm just going to share my screen with you and round about now or not. There, you should see a PowerPoint presentation. Yes, no, maybe. I can't actually see any of you in this mode, so someone needs to talk to me.
I'll pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, awesome.
Lash, leave it. Pay attention.
So, as Payam said, I'm Samra, and I did just finish my master's, and my thesis was actually on gratitude. And we were a group of 8 students, and we really investigated gratitude and what it means in our daily life, in the workplace, and so on. And I'm very happy to share some of my knowledge with you. Today, as Payam said, we will be looking at a more practical exercise. We will also be looking at some of the theories behind the gratitude and how it came across in research and as an academic study. Hopefully, after this little glimpse into what gratitude is and how it can help us, you will be motivated to put this into practice, and we can see where that takes us. So the first thing I want to speak to you about is that gratitude is actually multi-layered. So it can be split into 2. The first one is trait gratitude. So this is, as you can see, a general tendency to recognize small to large benefits, acknowledge anything in the world, human and non-human, so it's not just one or the other. It involves grateful emotion and expression of this emotion, which promotes well-being personally and that of others. So this is one side of gratitude. The other side of gratitude is what is called state gratitude. Now, this is a complex emotion with a cognitive, affective, and social component. So the difference between these 2 is actually very important, especially for research, because state gratitude is more temporary, let's say. So it often occurs after a person, let's say, has been helped, and then that motivates them in turn to help someone. So I don't know, if I forget something and someone is kind enough to bring it to me, then I will sort of remember that that person did a kindness to me and I'm grateful for that, and I will want to reciprocate it. So state gratitude is very linked to something that happens that triggers this response in us. And so it is considered a transitory thing, and it can change from one moment to the next, and it is quite fickle. So it can move sort of, you can be more grateful or less grateful, or a little bit kind of maybe grateful, depending on what happens to you during the day. On the other hand, if you think about the people that you know, your colleagues, your friends, your families, there are always some people who are slightly more consistently positive than others. So for example, they're always looking for the silver lining. They tend to maybe get out of what we call the slumps much faster. And these are people who have what is known as trait gratitude. So inherently, they are more grateful. It's easier in a sense. It's the person's character to be grateful. It's their natural predisposition. So firstly, this is one thing that we need to keep in mind. There's a difference between, let's say, the natural predisposition of a person's character and the temporary state of, oh, thank you so much for helping me pick up this pen from the floor that I dropped. Gratitude is important for various reasons. And of course, since I did my master's thesis on this, I have a lot of studies and a lot of academic blah, blah that says it, but I have condensed it to a few of very important theories that are the basis of everything. So the first one that I would like to point out to you is the broaden and build theory. So essentially what this says is someone has a positive emotion, for example, joy, love, and gratitude is also considered a positive emotion. And then these emotions expand this person's way of thinking. So suddenly they also think outside the box, and they think on top of the box and under the box and all this kind of stuff. So it's really broadens their horizons. This then, in turn, helps them to build resources. So be them, I don't know, I've solved this problem once already in this way. This is a resource that I have because I can solve it again in this way. Or maybe you build relationships, or you can build, I don't know, physical strength. You're happy, so you decide to start working out, and so on and so forth. Now this can then transform, here we see the word transform, into various things. It can transform into, for example, a relationship with someone, or it can just be a simple moment of happiness that, again, goes into the cycle of positive emotions. So you've built these new way of solving this problem, so you're even happier and you're, joyous. And so again, it goes into this idea of the positive emotion. Or even it might help you deal with adversity. So the broaden and build theory of positive emotion is by Fredrickson, and he developed this in 2004. And he says that grateful individuals don't simply repay the benefactor in a tit-for-tat fashion or mimic and reciprocate the benefactor's exact pro-social act. Rather, they appear to creatively consider a wide range of pro-social actions as possible reflections of their gratitude. Grateful people appear creative as they formulate actions that promote the well-being of other people, including, but not limited to, the original benefactor. And this grateful exchange is also important in building social relationships. The broaden and build theory is actually one of the foundations of all our studies on gratitude and what is known as positive psychology. I won't get into that, that's a whole other thing. But the idea here is that this is really the basis and the foundation for everything that we see in studies on gratitude. And so we see that it's not just a tit for tat, it's not just, okay, you, I don't know, lent me a pen, so I will lend you a pen, but I'm not going to, you know, lend you a pencil or a marker, let's say. But rather, grateful individuals really do look at other ways of doing it, you know, really hone in on individuals and see what is helpful to them. So let's keep going a little bit, and we will see these things coming back. Algo in 2012 now came up with the find, remind, and bind theory. So he really looks at the relationship. So Algo, while Fredrickson sort of looked at the whole picture, Algo zooms in on the relationships and how gratitude can really strengthen the relationships that we have with people. So if we think of, let's see, our own relationships, right, with a friend or so. If I am grateful for my friend, then I'm really thinking about the person. I see this person in a positive light because I say, wow, I'm really grateful, I don't know, that my friend is there for me in times of need and really helps me get through things, for example. Then I am thinking of the positive things that I have thanks to this relationship. And this then really strengthens that bond that I have with that person. Of course, this needs to be a two-way street as always, because if I am very grateful to that person and that person is not, then that's a whole other story. But the idea that Algo has is that really the strengthening of the relationship is one of the primary, let's say, consequences of being grateful for another person. And of course, I'm sure we can all imagine a lot of different, you know, scenarios in which this is actually very important, be it, you know, in friendships, at work, even, of course, even in the family, it's very important not to take each other for granted and really understand, you know, that we are grateful for each other in this sense. The last theory that I would like to speak to you about is that of upstream reciprocity. So Nowak and Roach in 2007 thought about how gratitude not only motivates people to reciprocate to their benefactors, but also motivates people to show pro-social behavior towards others. So visually, it looks something like this. So you have the person here, and then you have the benefactor, so the person who did something. And so this person is then grateful to them. And this is the same person. Now, what Nowak and Roach say is that this grateful person in the middle is not only going to reciprocate to these two people, but will also show pro-social behavior towards others. And by pro-social, we don't mean that they suddenly become, you know, super charitable people or what so, but that they actually just help others without being asked, without thinking about the consequences or the benefits that they would have towards them. So these are all the theories, and I think we have enough theories for today. I want to talk a little bit now about what some of the benefits actually are of gratitude. So before I started all my research, I was like, yeah, okay, I can say thank you, and then, you know, that's it, right? I say thank you, and then you heard the thank you, and blah, 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 we continue. However, it's actually not that simple. So I discovered that there's a plethora, there's like a really, really lot of studies that have been done on both mental and physical health. So I extracted a few really interesting insights that I would like to share with you. So the first thing that we're going to look at is actually mental health. And we see that gratitude in most of the studies, in 90% of the studies, they really find an association with greater happiness. So the more grateful you are, the happier you are. Because, the studies conclude, it helps people find things to be grateful for, so it helps people feel more positive emotion. You really relish the good experiences, you really focus on them, and when they come again, you really live them to their fullest. It really helps people to deal with adversity and build these strong relationships. So one of the things that I that I found while I was doing some of my research is that really gratitude reduces toxic emotions. So it actually has a measurable effect on all these horrible emotions such as envy, resentment, and frustration. And research really confirms that gratitude increases happiness and reduces depression. So not only does it increase the good, but it actually reduces the bad. It's a full spectrum of idea. Again, the grateful people are more likely to behave in a pro-social manner, even when others behave less kindly. So whereas before we were saying that grateful people, they do not do a tit for tat kind of thing. It's not a, oh, you did this for me, you lent me your pencil, so I will lend you my pencil. This is really something above that. Even if you don't lend me your pencil and you need a pencil, I will give you a pencil. I will lend it to you. It's really the idea of being a little bit more selfless. It also, other studies, right, saw that those participants who ranked higher on gratitude scales, so how they measure in the academic studies how grateful you are on your state and trait gratitude. So those who had more gratitude, let's say, they were less likely to retaliate against others. So they had less desire to seek revenge or to say, oh, you hurt my arm, so I'm also going to hurt your arm. And actually, I will do more so you never mess with me again, you know? All of this seems to have drastically reduced, if not nearly gone. And this really can show us how effective great gratitude is for the society and a community. Moving on to the physical effects. So a lot of studies, unfortunately, were inconclusive because so many things can affect physical health. However, a few things were indeed proven. And so some studies found, in fact, that grateful people experience fewer aches and pains and report feeling healthier than others. Again, this is according to a 2012 study. So possibly during COVID, where we're all stuck on our sofas for 8 hours a day, it might be a little bit different. But again, the idea is that you're not concentrating on the ache and oh, my shoulder hurts and here and that. You're really looking at the positive. And again, another study found that grateful people are more likely to take care of their health, which means that they exercise more often, they go to the doctor to get regular checkups. And of course, this is likely to contribute to further longevity, but they attribute the source or the reason behind exercising and attending regular checkups and so on to gratitude. So while, maybe at the beginning I thought, okay, yes, I say thank you, you say thank you, we're all thankful, okay, bye. I'm really I realized, especially during my research, that it really has far-reaching consequences, both towards the individual and, towards a community. So these were personal aspects. So we looked a little bit at the literature and some theories. We saw a little bit about the benefits for mental health and for the physical health. Now I'd like to speak a little bit about the professional benefits. So things that actually would help you in your workplace. And you think, as if, which is what I thought. I thought, as if, being grateful, okay, I'm grateful. How is that actually going to help me, do my projects? I was very surprised. So what we found out, and of course, other studies before us, is that it increases work engagement. So being grateful increases work engagement. Now, work engagement is when you are immersed in your job and you really give yourselves to the projects that you're working on, you invest your time, your energy, and so on, really to the fullest. You don't sort of say, oh, I can't do this by kind of thing. You're really engaged in this. It increases job satisfaction, so your sense of achievement and success in the job. It increases job performance, so how well you actually do your job. Again, it increases pro-social behavior, so this should not be new because we've discussed it a little bit. So again, the idea of helping others within the workplace. And it also increases organizational citizenship behavior. So this is a very interesting term in my opinion, but it actually means that the voluntary commitment that you have to this organization, which are not part of your job description. So I don't know, if I am a receptionist at a hotel, then I need to answer the phone, I need to speak with my guests, maybe I need to smile, but that's my job description. Organizational citizenship behavior deals with, okay, when I go home in my free time, what do I do? Do I talk positively about my organization? Am I, promoting the company? Am I feeling emotionally attached to it and so on? This is what organizational citizenship behavior deals with. Apart from increasing a bunch of stuff, it also decreases a bunch of stuff. So it decreases perceived stress. So in the studies that associate gratitude to decrease in perceived stress, they saw that the participants reported feeling less stressed overall. And it also links to decreased symptoms of burnout. Now, burnout is something very intense because it is actually the result of chronic workplace stress. And it is very often likened to clinical depression. So it's really intense. And unfortunately, there is a lot of it happening all around the world in all fields. So it's very important sometimes that we try to find these little things that we can do, which really help us in our professional life, in our personal life, to feel better. So these are the professional benefits. Overall, there's many positive advantages. And it's really important to remember that in moments of adversity, so even now with all the horrible things that are going on, with the Black Lives Matter movement, with COVID, with the pandemic, with everything that is happening, gratitude really is vital. So to give you an idea, there was a 2015 study that Hutchinson did, and his participants were split into two groups. One group was asked to write about an unpleasant memory. That was their task. Please write about an unpleasant memory you have. The second group were told, okay, write about your unpleasant memory, but you have to write also a pleasant aspect of this memory, either something that happened or something that came out of it or something pleasant about it. They were both told to do the negative, but one group had an added positive thing. So what Hutchinson found out at the end was that actually the grateful writing group, so the group who wrote something that was positive, felt more closure and less unhappiness. So their level of, let's say, sadness was actually lower. They were less sad than the other group. So this is very interesting because even just focusing a little bit on something positive actually tips the scales a lot. So really, I cannot stress, I think, enough how gratitude is vital in terms of adversity, because it really helps us to see the big picture and not feel overwhelmed by the setbacks. So it can actually motivate us to try and solve the challenges that we face ahead. So this is what is. During my research, I spoke to a lot of people and I got a lot of, oh yeah, gratitude, whatever. And then I got a lot of misconceptions. So I got a lot of, okay, gratitude is really nothing major. It's just seeing the world, through rose-colored glasses. It's not that big of a deal. But that's not true. And I would tell them, I'd be like, that's not what gratitude is about. Gratitude does not mean that you ignore the negative aspects. Just as in the previous study that I mentioned, Hutchinson's study, you don't ignore the negative. You actually mention the negative, but you also focus on the positive. Another thing that I heard was, it leads to complacency, you're happy, la, 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 and you just sit there on your laurels. It's like, no. There is actually a 2010 study that does say that gratitude drives a sense of purpose for change and a desire to see things better in the world. And so people who are grateful tend to be more energetic and they want to contribute to the lives of others, which is exactly the opposite of complacency. Another, let's say, fear that I encountered is that, okay, if you're grateful, then you become, this little mouse who's always saying thank you and please and, oh, okay, I'm so grateful, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not it, right? There's nowhere in any of the gratitude literature does it say, Actually, in a 2016 studies, it says the opposite. It says that grateful individuals recognize their own weaknesses and strengths, but they also feel grateful towards others. So you are very aware of your own strengths. You take ownership of your own success very easily. That's not the point. It's just that there is a greater sense of personal control over your success because you are very aware of what you can and you cannot do. And a last one that I would like to bring to your attention is this one that, okay, being grateful means believing in God, or, it has something to do with religion. If I'm atheist, I cannot, be thankful, which makes absolutely no sense, because you can be grateful towards anything. You can be grateful towards nature. You can be grateful towards science. You can be grateful for someone's health. You can be grateful for the roof on top of your head. Like, it can be anything. It can be metaphysical, physical, spiritual, whatever you want it to be. So now I would like to do a exercise. So I will stop sharing my screen for a minute so that I can see everyone's face. There we go. And whenever my IT assistant is ready, who's also my sister, for those who know her, in a minute, she will split you into breakout rooms. And I would like you to do an exercise in these breakout rooms. There will be 2 screens in each breakout room. So people who are more than 1 person per screen will have to take it in turns a little bit. But the idea is that you do what is called gratitude ping pong. So one person says something they're grateful for. I don't know. I'm grateful for this sweater because it is starting to get a little bit chilly. And then the other person says something that they are grateful for. And then again, the first person. What I ask of you is this. By the second time that you need to say something, think of something specific. Think of how it made you feel and why you were grateful. So I'm very grateful for this sweater because it makes me feel warmer because it's getting chilly. And I know that I have been doing workouts. So I know that my body really needs to stay warm so that I don't get muscle strains. It can be as simple as your sweater. It can be as simple as, my flower bloomed after all of winter. I'm so happy my plant has a flower. It hasn't died. It's like a personal best. That's also something you can be very grateful for. But the idea is that it's concrete and it's really something that works for you. So, my dear IT person, I don't know where she is, but I'm sure she's working very hard in the background. There we go. And I will possibly be hopping from one to another, so I will possibly see you. Do we have everyone?
Hello.
Hey, Lulu. Yes, I think everyone is back. Good. So,
Back yet. The technical person says here that they're not back yet. So
oh, okay. I
wait.
will.
Now we're okay? Yes, now everyone is back.
Do I have the go ahead from my techie? Techie says yes. Awesome. Thank you, Techie. Yeah, so we did this gratitude ping pong, which is just a very simple, a very quick way of, you know, seeing what you are grateful and taking that moment to reflect really on your life and what it means and so on. But of course, there are a lot of ways in which we can really make gratitude a part of our daily lives. So of course, there is the thank you, the simple thank you. However, what we call the perfect thank you has a couple of elements to it. And of course, the perfect thank you is said as a joke. There is no formula that, you know, says, okay, you do this and then that's it, it's perfect. And there is no more problems. Of course, it is a little bit of a joke, but, you know, a more effective thank you in terms of gratitude does have a couple of elements. So that is, you know, making it concrete, acknowledging the cost to the other person, mentioning your benefit, so my benefit in this case, and if possible, naming a positive trait. So for example, I can say, thank you for taking the time to do groceries for me, even though you were pressed for time. Without that, I wouldn't have been able to eat anything tonight because I cannot leave the house. That was very kind of you. So I'm sure that the person on the other hand understands because I made it concrete. I acknowledged the cost by saying that they were pressed for time. I mentioned the benefit to me, which is that it would have been very difficult for me to eat because I was unable to leave the house. Side note, I am also too poor to order it. And also I tried to name a positive trait, which was that it was very kind of them. Other ways that we can look at this is also by performing good deeds and being of service to others. Now, these I will link slightly together, but let's go through them one by one so I can also explain the difference. Good deeds, as it says, is just, I don't know, actively helping someone or lending them the pencil or helping the lady cross the street or a pregnant woman with the groceries or whatever it may be. Being of service to others, however, is something, let's say, on a little bit of a bigger scale. Because when you're looking at being of service, you're not only looking at the individual person, but you're also looking at your neighborhood or your community as a whole. It's a whole thing. The gratitude journal and the gratitude letter are also things that we can group together. The journal is something very personal. It is very self-reflective because you really, every morning and every evening, you consistently write a list of things that you are grateful for. It is important that each entry is specific and deals with what happened, how you felt, the consequences, etc. And again, it really focuses your mind on how your life is going. What are the good things? And you do it in the morning because it puts you in that mood of, yes, I have things to be thankful for. And also in the evening as a self-reflective exercise, because you're thinking, today there was this and this and this that was an added bonus. A gratitude letter is slightly different in that it is specifically to one person. So maybe you can imagine, you know, we mentioned the perfect thank you. This is the letter to that thank you. You're, again, making it concrete. You're acknowledging the cost. You're mentioning your benefits. And the idea, of course, is that you either hand the letter over to the person or you read it to them. And this has an added benefit of, you know, creating the bond, strengthening a bond and appreciation that goes beyond the simple verbal thank you. Another way that I think is very challenging, but I think is quite rewarding, is the idea of conversations about gratitude. So asking very simply, so, you know, how do you express your gratitude? Do you do it through words or through an action? What is your way, you know, of showing your gratitude to your family, your friends, to the different relationships that you have? You know, You can also take it to the level of community and ask people, you know, what in our community, in our neighborhood, in our family as a whole, as a big unit, what are we grateful for? You know, how can we express that? How can we show our gratitude? You know, and in this way, I really think that you create this sort of ripple effect that really strengthens everyone, and you really start building this culture of gratitude. Because, you know, no man is an island, so of course we always need that something to help us go on. Now, we know that motivation is what gets you started, but habit is really what keeps you going. And habits really help you reap the long-term benefits. Now, just like, I don't know, working out. The first time you lift weights, okay, nothing's really gonna happen except, oh my gosh, your muscles really hurt. But 1 month down the line, you can really see a difference. You know, your muscles are defined, it looks better, you feel so much greater, and so on. But of course, it did not happen the first day. And so I really think that making it a habit is really important. What I have heard, however, is, okay, so it becomes a habit, and then we take it for granted. And my answer is twofold. My answer is, one, spice it up. The first month, write the gratitude journal. Go for it. Every day, morning and evening, write something you're grateful for. And then the next month, I don't know, start conversations. Give yourself a goal. I want to start a gratitude conversation with X people every week, every day. And you can change it so many times. However, I must say that studies have actually shown that once you start focusing on the things that you are grateful for, you actually don't take it for granted. The opposite kind of happens because you're paying so much more attention to what is making you grateful, what is causing that joy, that it's completely the opposite of you take it for granted and it falls into the background. And so sometimes we feel, oh, okay, I did my gratitude journal today. I was not feeling happy today. That's fine. The point is not for you to feel happy today. The point is to build this habit and to do it, just like going to the gym. I would like to finish with a video because many of the ideas that we spoke about today are, of course, not new by any stretch. In fact, globally, there is what is called the Pay It Forward Day, which is on April 28th. And the aim of this is that the kindness that is brought about by the small acts is multiplied by the millions of people who perform these small acts of kindness. And this can really change the world for the better. Now, this is a very simple video, and I think it is appropriate here for me to ask you, while we are watching this video, to please really think about your daily lives, what you are grateful for, and how to implement this gratitude in your daily life.
C'ha la musica questo? Oh. Non si sente.
Sorry, can you hear the video?
You have to optimize the video.
I think I have. Let me try again. 1 second. And go. And hopefully it will manage to play.
Or maybe you can send the link to your tech person and she can.
Absolutely, I can do that. Tech person. Link incoming. Oh, I see. I think there's an issue with my internet because everything is a little bit slow. Let me see if I can stop this. And
Sandra, a volte l'audio del computer non si sente se hai gli headphones dentro. Passa attraverso la headphone e non attraverso il computer, a volte succede.
Mm-hmm. Can you hear it now?
You have to share it first before we can hear it.
Ah, see, that's what was not working.
When you...
I swear it worked. But
somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, and the dreams that you dream of once in a lullaby. What a wonderful world. like a lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. The dreams that you dare to, why, oh why can't I
So friends, thank you very much for listening to me and for participating in our little gratitude exercise. And yeah, if you have any questions or anything you would like to share, I think we have a few minutes. I don't know.
Maria, you're muted. You need to unmute yourself. Sorry, dear.
Samra, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
I want to thank you, Samra, because you gave us, all, at least you gave me a fantastic experience. I had a lot of admiration for all the job you produced and the time you were using to give us such a fantastic evening. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yes, a lot. Samra?
Yeah, I think Michael put his hand up. I don't know if Payam is coordinating or if it's a free-for-all.
I just wanted to say that the video, it seemed to demonstrate the power of example, a good example.
Yeah.
And secondly, I'd like to thank you because you've given me a good, on Tuesday, next Tuesday, I'm doing a fireside on Zoom, and I'm going to use this as a topic. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, Navid, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if gratitude is contagious like laughing, you know? Is there any study that was about?
So there's no studies that I've come across that investigate whether it is contagious, but the idea of being, of course, it's not very far-fetched, right? The fact that you are influenced by the people you see around you, and also, of course, in the video, we saw many clear examples of the hot dog vendor giving the water when he realized that it was for the other person, you know? A lot of this pro-social behavior that does inspire you also in turn leads a lot of people to really be pro-social or grateful or joyous or happy or laughing in turn. So as far as I know, there have not been any studies that have looked at whether it is contagious. But I am sure that we have in the Netherlands, we have the expert on gratitude. She is one of the leading experts in the field in the Netherlands. And I'm sure that if you speak with her, she will be very happy to look into this.
I was wondering if there are any studies that they measured how many times a day there is kind of, because there is this idea that, you know, it's like physical exercise, obviously. If you just do so little that is not relevant to your well-being, overall well-being, you know, just, okay, I walked a minute today and that's my physical exercise, obviously it's not gonna. So is there any studies that they measured, you know, kind of if you hit the threshold of being 5 times, for example, I'm just saying, grateful during the day, it's gonna tip over your overall look?
So it's actually funny because they had found something and then it got debunked completely. So now the answer is no, but about 3 months ago, it would have been yes. So unfortunately, this is very subjective. And so it is something that you need to see within yourself. What is often suggested is that at least it has to be a daily exercise. And the more you spice it up, as I was saying, even within the week, the better it is. Because you keep training your brain to forge these pathways of looking for what you are grateful for. So that's why oftentimes the most studied or the study which use the journal gratitude, all the studies that use journal gratitude are the ones that find the highest links, let's call them so, because it is such a systematic, consistent, daily, multiple times a day type thing. Of course, the threshold is unfortunately not there yet.
Yeah, please.
May I? I tried to introduce the idea of the gratitude journal in the course of mindfulness I'm giving to the students at my school, but I completely failed. I don't know why, because when we had this exercise at school, they were so happy, they were so smiling, they thanked me, oh yes, thank you much, because we, etc. And then when I asked them to keep a journal for 1 week only, okay, nobody took it. So how can you, especially with teenagers, of course, because I'm teaching teenagers, but how can we try to give us a stronger motivation than the first time, okay, or the one time they feel grateful for something, they discover that you can also implement this kind of attitude and behavior. So what are your suggestions and advice?
So when we talk about teenagers, it's like alarm bells go off, you know, it's not an easy time. What I would suggest is to maybe the first time you do a little bit of this gratitude exercise that we did. So that's day 1. And then day 2, again with them, you have them write like 5 thank you notes to different people for different occasions. And then the 3rd day, you have them write a thank you letter. You build them up to the point where whenever you see them, there's always something about gratitude. There's always something. And then you say, okay, think about all the times that you've written this, you know, how do you feel? What is happening in your mind? Is it working better? You know, after you've written your 5 thank you notes, you realize how much you are thankful for and what the different things are happening in your life that you can really see. And I think once they see the effect over time, because you're sort of making them see it, then they will be able to really take home the learnings with themselves and also do the gratitude journal more easily. And because they've seen that, okay, it's true, it makes me feel happier or better or, you know, lighter. And then once they've seen these things, they can also sort of implement it and make it their own. I hope this helps. Yeah, of course, it's very tricky even with the threshold and the different people because everyone has different motivations and so on. And of course, the one thing I didn't mention in my talk, in my presentation, is that there is what is called a floor effect and a ceiling effect. So if someone is always very happy, and so their happiness is on a scale of 9 out of 10, if you try to make them more grateful and therefore more happy, there's only so much more that they're going to get happier. Whereas if they're at like a 2 out of 10, then maybe even the slightest thing will make them happier. So there's also this, sometimes one day we're having such a bad day that just thinking about the flower in my pot is like, wow, yes, I'm feeling so much better. And there is, sort of this light at the end of the tunnel. But another day where everything is going perfectly fine and I'm having the time of my life and I found, no red traffic lights and no bumps on the road. And, sort of my flower is like, yay, flower, but okay. So it's always a question of patience with gratitude, unfortunately.
Samra, can I ask you a question? How old are you?
Why? Okay.
Because you are so young and so fantastic. The way you are speaking is fascinating from my point of view. That's why I'm asking you, how old are you?
Yeah, last I checked, I'm not 30 yet, but I'm getting there next year.
30 years old?
Nearly, yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Very well done.
Thank you so much.
I had a question about these conversations thing. Do you think it could be the same way when you start the conversation with the person you choose to ask first her what she's today grateful for? Because you, in mind, you want to tell her what. So if I ask you what you're grateful for, my purpose is to tell you what I'm grateful for, but I want to start the conversation. Do you think this is a good way or not so good?
So I think if you're having a normal, like superficial conversation with someone, and then all of a sudden you're like, what are you grateful for? You know, that might not work very well. Because of course, the idea, as we mentioned before, is about this prosocial behavior and the idea that you want to, you know, make the world around you better. So one of the things that you could do is you can start a conversation and say, you know, wow, I'm really grateful for my sweater, because if it weren't for my sweater, my muscles would be so, you know, I would be in so much pain today. You know, I'm really happy I have this. How about you? You know, do you have something? And then again, it's this idea that if you're in a family, in a community, whatever this community is, you know, work or family, or you and your extended, immediate family, whatever it is, you start forging these pathways of gratitude, and you start talking about things that uplift you. And so you start with the, you know, maybe one day you start and you say, oh, I'm grateful for this. What are you grateful for? And then tomorrow your friend or whoever you spoke to might come up to you or send you a message or call you and say, you know, I was thinking about it and today I'm really grateful for this, you know? And like that, you can start this conversation that is not only one time, but hopefully it will be, you know, more consistent and it will go through. I hope I answered your question and that makes sense to you.
It's kind of connected to what Carla was asking earlier, because so when we were doing classes for children, you know, we noticed that as they were arriving, there was a tendency to be sort of, oh, life is so bad, and oh, what a week I've had, and so we were trying to be, you know, the other teacher had this great idea, because I think society, unfortunately, is, even at work, you know, people tend to start off with what's not going well versus why things are good. So I was wondering, you know, because we started trying to say, let's be grateful, let's start the class with sharing something we're grateful for this week. So can the effect still be realized if that, you know, if I'm the one who's maybe giving you the idea of what you could be grateful for, can that still work to maybe get people thinking or sort of having a different perspective, or does it necessarily need to come from the individual always?
So again, when dealing with children, of course, it's a little bit different, but overall, yes, there is nothing to indicate that because you start the gratitude exercise or just implement this idea, then the other person doesn't benefit from it. But of course, the greatest benefit is received if you are actively, you know, participating. So one thing that I might suggest with children is to maybe build up to the concept of gratitude. So start maybe with joy or happiness. Like, okay, so today this made me happy, and sort of shift that. And then, of course, there's many resources that deal with this idea of gratitude and how to explain it to children, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but this could be something that you build up to. So it's good if they see, you know, you, and they see you as this example, and you try to say, oh, you know, are you grateful maybe for your dog, or the fact that it was raining and you were in a car, so you did not get wet, or so on. So that's absolutely brilliant. The idea is that it needs to be long-term. So there is a plan in place. So you say, okay, every week for however many weeks or however many times that we meet, we will be, as the teachers, the ones instilling this. So sort of like we spoke with Carla about getting them to see it, then you swap. You say, okay, does anyone want to share, you know, something that they are happy for, joyful for, grateful for, what, and so on. And if they're stuck, of course, the teachers are maybe can see a little bit more or are more used to this. So you can help them and you can prod them and you can remind them what big and small things they can be grateful for. So yes, I think it would be a fantastic idea and it would be very helpful to start this process, but just starting it in the sense that they would just listen to what you are grateful for is not really going to be helpful in the long run to them. But if a plan is implemented, let's say, where you really look at how to get them to participate, then I think it would be very good. And then, as we said, you know, from this, the earlier you start, the easier it is to have this habit, and the more time you have to reap the benefits.
Cheers.
So dear friends, if there are no more questions, maybe we can end our conversation for this evening. Thank you very much for being with us, and thanks to Samra for having accepted to present this to us. And every Saturday we have a presentation of some sort, and this is presented on Facebook. So if you subscribe to the Facebook page of Dubai Community of Malta, you will find all the information every week, and you can choose the topic that you're interested in and participate, and we'll be very happy to have you with us again. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.